gentlemen, the media. I want to thank you very much for attending our announcement of our participation in the coming elections. First, I think as a party, as Free Zim Congress, we want to thank those who came before us, from Buya Nehanda Sekru Kagui, the first people who waged resistance against the settlers to reclaim our lands, to reclaim our identity and our independence. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the second leaders of the liberation struggle, Dabangini Stole, President Mugabe, Joshua Mgomo, Josiah Tongogara, and all those leaders that led to the 1980 victory. Without omitting anybody, we want to also thank General Mujuru, Comrade Dabengwa, retired General Chiwenga. Those are the people in the recent history that contributed to what we are today. But I think today what I want really to do is to be able to announce that in 1980, there was every reason for us to celebrate as we claimed independence. In 2017, many of us celebrated, but I think that celebration has come to nothing. So we want to make sure that as we contest elections this year, the celebration of Zimbabweans after whoever is victorious in August is something worth to celebrate about. We are aware of the hardships I think we face as a country. We've been stagnant for the past 20 years. We have the energy crisis that is supposed to be resolved so that we are able as a country to make sure that there's production, there's industries all at full capacity. We have a current crisis that is also 2 decades long, where we don't have money, and hence business people are finding it very difficult to be able to conduct business. I want to be able to say, in that spirit of thinking, those who have been in government for what they have done up to date, that I think their term has come to an end. They have done what they've done, but I don't think they've got the expertise to be able to find solutions to our perennial problems. We want to be able to make sure that the leaders we elect today are leaders that understand capital, how to allocate capital, leaders that have got economic models to be able to find permanent solutions to both our financial and social problems. So we want to announce that as Free Zim Congress in 2023, we're going to contest elections fully. And we want to thank them. We want to thank the current president, President Mnangagwa, that his term has come to an end in August. Vagoniwe basa, Tawuya, because we have given them the benefit of the doubt and enough time to be able to prove that they are working for Zimbabweans. We've talked about empowerment, but all of you would agree with me that Zimbabweans today, despite the fact that we took the land, which I appreciate, empowerment is not going to Zimbabweans. Empowerment is going to the Chinese. Empowerment is going to foreign nations. The mines, we don't own them. Zimbabwe is not a net producer and exporter of batteries. Yet we got all the minerals where we're able to create new industries. We believe they must be able to pass the baton if they mean well for Zimbabwe. And my message as well to the war veterans, those who were at the forefront of the second liberation struggle, or the collaborators, that you are not free until you are free to associate with whoever you want to associate with. We believe that your fights, your struggles, your efforts should not be in vain, but we must be able to come to a point where, as a nation, we celebrate together. We are approaching the twilights of our economic activity, but most of those who led us during the liberation struggle of the 70s and 60s have never tasted the fruits of the liberation struggle. I want to assure them and all Zimbabweans that myself, as a presidential candidate, and my team, we embrace all Zimbabweans, and we're going to ensure that at least we taste the fruits of independence. There are a few things we would want the government to consider for these elections, is to make sure that the voters' roll is clean and is accessible to all participants, to also ensure that there's freedom of campaigning. I would want to ask the president to make sure that the requirement that political parties must get permission 7 days before getting involved in any activity, that must be scrapped during the election period, because there's no point. Nomination court is on the 21st, elections are on the 23rd of August. So during that period, that window of campaigning, I think we must be able to be allowed to campaign in peace and freedom, because that's what we fought for. But I also urge all the supporters, the members, the security forces to exercise restraint, and parties to be able to obey and observe the law, because that's very important for us to have a credible and clean elections. The elections are the watershed elections in Zimbabwe. We can't be in a circle like we were in 2008. If you had left Zimbabwe, you come back today, you used to have a problem with currency. You used to have a problem with water. You used to have a problem with transportation. You used to have a problem with energy. You used to have a problem with currency. And this is my appeal to all Zimbabweans. Please do vote for the leaders you believe will represent the best interests of Zimbabweans. Elect people with morals. Elect people who are going to be accountable and responsible. We have seen construction of roads, but the roads are not complete. We're going to complete them. Whatever the ruling party and those who have been in government since 1980 have failed to complete, we're going to complete. That's why we are saying Vagoni Tauya. We have noticed that helicopters have been bought, few things have been bought, but there's no medicines in the hospitals. Since 1980, Harare has got a population of almost 2 million people, but we only have Parenyatwa Hospital and the Harare Hospital. We need to make sure that there's enough infrastructure, public infrastructure, to save our people. We also need to understand that the quality of education, we all know, has deteriorated. What do we do with that? We need to make sure that we go back to the standards and the levels Zimbabweans are known for. Education must be totally free. Health must be totally free, because those are the basic rights for any young person, so that we have equal access to opportunities. We don't have equal access to opportunities in Zimbabwe. Those with money, they go to better hospitals outside Zimbabwe. Those with money, they've got access to food. You go to shops right now, there's no bread. So this is my call to the current president, that we thank you for what you have done. Your capacity, we know it could be limited. That's why there's no change in Zimbabwe. But we're going to look after you. We're going to look after every Zimbabwean, all those who contribute to be where we are. and we're very thankful for that. And please, let's go and campaign in peace. Let's make sure that for a change in Zimbabwe, and I believe that the future of Africa begins in our minds, and I think I want Zimbabwe to be the first step to make sure that we've got total peace on the continent. We've noticed what's happening in Sudan. We still have coups in part of northern Africa. That should not happen in a free Africa. This is 60 years after the founding of the OAU, the Organization of African Unity. But those ideals, Kwame Nkrumah, Julius Nyerere, and others stood for, 60 years later, they count for nothing. There are gains that have been recorded. But if we have gains, why do we have young people drowning in the seas trying to look for better life in Europe? Every young Zimbabwean is looking to be a healthcare assistant in the United Kingdom, is going to look for the frail, rather than us looking for academic qualifications and doing research and development. We're looking for a passport so that we can go and become helpers or nursing aides. When we see young people decreasing from queuing to look for passports, then we know there are opportunities in Zimbabwe. So in summary, I want to thank you, the media. You are the educators of the nation. Disseminate the information fairly. I want to thank those who came before us for total self-determination of Zimbabwe. Lobengula, Mzilikazi, Ambuya Nehanda Kagui, to the generation of the late President Mugabe, and to those current in government, that you have done what you could have done, but the fact is that you have failed. That's a fact, and there's nothing wrong in accepting that. Pass the baton to the next generation, just for the future of the next Zimbabweans, not just for your children. Just think of the future. The late President Mugabe said that 15 billion went missing. Nobody took care and was responsible to say who took that 15 billion. And today we have young Zimbabweans roaming and boasting outside the country that, so what are you gonna do? Mchaite. I think we're a peaceful nation. I wanna make sure that those who are at the forefront enjoy Zimbabwe. I wanna make sure that President Mnangagwa is going to enjoy a better Zimbabwe under my leadership. A fair, open, entrepreneurial state that gives opportunities to all Zimbabweans, regardless of their background, gender, or tribe. We want to make sure people in Binga have got the same access to opportunities as children of those who are in power, the elite. I pray to God that we're going to find it in ourselves, that we conduct these elections in peace, and we accept the will of the people. And I wish all those candidates participating good luck, but I want to assure them that under my presidency, Zimbabwe will do better. Zimbabwe now is looking for somebody who understands capital, economics, and solutions. Energy solutions, the hospitals, and the education for the sake of Zimbabwe. Thank you. God bless Zimbabwe. God bless you all. I believe that the nomination fees for councillors and MPs is exorbitant. I think for councillors, it must be reduced into half. The MPs, I also believe it could be reduced into half. But I think for the president, I think they could even put it to 50,000, because we don't want people who want to play with Zimbabweans. Because if you look at all those people in Poland, what have they achieved since the formation of Poland? We think Poland, the formation of Poland was illegal. It was political expedience by the presidents. They have achieved nothing for the country. I believe that if anybody wants to prove that they are ready now to save the nation, they must be able to give. Leaders pay all the time. Leaders pay through stress, through sacrifice, like those in the liberation struggle. There were no promises for them when they went to Mozambique. But I think they went there because they wanted to save the nation. So the fee directly for the president, I think, is fair. I was actually advocating for more so that we don't have a blotted ballot paper. But for councillors and the MPs, I think that must be reduced. We certainly trying to make sure that those who qualify, going through the requirements of ZEC or the electoral process, we make sure that we help them, we fund them. But as I said to you, I think if that is happening, it will give us a better fair chance because we're not in government. But I think for the presidential nomination fee, I'm not complaining. So certainly there's no doubt that I will be a fool if I don't acknowledge Advocate Chamisa. He's a young man, and I think he's been popular in the country. So I think in the country so far, there are 3 political parties or candidates that are worth it. Myself being the leading candidate. There's the current president, and there's Advocate Chamisa. Those are only leaders, I believe, basically based on the previous elections, we stand a chance. I think Advocate Chamisa is young. He has got no one to learn from, so he will learn from me after I win this year. I mean, he's young, so he is young. So there are 3 candidates. Thank you very much. So my chances, if the voters' roll is clean, you are aware that they say that they haven't even finalized, making sure that is clean. So if ZEC is not complete, why did the president then rush to announce the elections rather than possibly to delay them? But we have to work with what is there. And I believe the will of the people will prevail this time. I think what I've done for me is not an event. I've always been very supportive of the young people. I'm a role model for anyone who believes in education as a pathway towards self-actualization. I believe in education. I'm an author. I published 1 book. I'll publish 2 more this year. And these are not about me. These are not autobiographies. These are educational books I believe are, contribute to the board of knowledge. I contribute greatly to sports. I've got a team in Division 1, which I hope next year it will go into the Premier League. So I provide opportunities to soccer players. Sports is a profession, to athletics, netball, and certainly to education. I believe in R&D, strong research and development, because I believe that's the foundation, I think, for our socio-economic development. So my record in terms of what I've done over the years is quite clear. We are not an opposition party. We are a government in waiting. We are an alternative party. The other guys are just opposing. Us, we are an alternative to the ruling party. Yes, I agree with you that there are lots of political parties, but do those parties have people behind them? And as he asked the track record, what are the track records of those people? So I'm a businessman before I become a social worker, right? So you can trace what I've done over the last 30 years, 20 years, right? The other people, you only trace them to politics. So they've only survived on what I call donor money. Whether it was donation from Cuba or Russia during the liberation struggle or China, or whether it's donation from the taxpayers' money, those people who are benefiting from the taxpayers' money, like in Poland, they got cars from the taxpayers' money, they got passports from the taxpayers' money. So those people are not political parties. As I said to you, there are 3 political parties I believe are genuine. There is Triple C, led by Advocate Chamisa. There is ZANU-PF, led by President Idi Mnangagwa. There is Free Zim Congress, led by myself, Joseph Makamba Busha, and I believe I'm the most capable and suitable candidate in 2023. So there is an expectation, and then there's reality. Certainly for us to be outright winners, we need to garner at least more than 3 million to 4 million votes, depending obviously on the number of people who are registered to vote and whether they won't be turned away, because we're not quite clear. But I think for us, if no one gets 3 million votes, you can't be an outright winner. I believe that the president is already set October 2 as a rerun elections. He knows that he's not going to win. So there will be a trade-off between me and him, and then I'll beat him in October.